Sometimes they don't leave with words, they leave with silence. And that silence says everything. They didn't say goodbye, they just vanished. They didn't explain what really happened, they just left without a warning. No calls came through at all. No text lit up your phone, just endless silence. And now you're stuck in pause, trapped with questions spinning like knives. No closure, no clarity, just confusion. You loved them with full effort. You showed up even when tired. You gave your all without hesitation. But somehow they left you behind. Now you're alone, staring at silence, staring at a phone. That's dead. Because when someone you love suddenly stops talking to you, there's always a reason and you deserve to hear it. Now, without going further ado, let's jump right now to the details and know what reason it can be. Reason 1, they lost respect for you. They didn't just stop the conversation, they stopped looking up to you. That silence isn't random or confusing. It's clarity wrapped in cold distance. It's them realizing a hard truth. You're not who they imagined anymore. Maybe you folded one too many times. Maybe you begged when you shouldn't have. Maybe you tried to buy their love with kindness that came from fear. Every time you bent to please them, you gave away pieces of power. They didn't leave because you were unkind. They left because your edge disappeared. People don't follow softness or safety. They follow presence, direction, and strength. When strength fades, attraction quickly follows. You thought love meant giving more always, but they needed you standing taller. You thought being available was the answer. They needed to feel your purpose. You didn't lose them in one moment. You lost them across tiny compromises. Each time you abandoned your mission just to fit inside their frame. They won't always explain their distance, but silence has its own language. And sometimes that silence screams loudest. I can't respect who you became. Reason 2, they were never really invested. The hardest pill to swallow is this. They were never truly all in. They liked the attention you gave freely. They liked the validation, the easy effort. They liked the comfort, not the connection. But they didn't feel your depth, not the way you felt them. They laughed when things felt light easy. They shared when it served them. They stayed close until they didn't. The connection was never really rooted. It was floating flimsy, not anchored. Surface-level affection. Situational emotional convenience. You misread comfort as real commitment. You mistook familiarity for genuine love. When did the dopamine start to fade? They vanished without conflict or closure. No argument, no explanation, just silence. Why? Because people rarely explain empty exits. Not when they weren't ever serious. You were a moment not meaning A, convenience dressed as a deep connection, a phase they planned to outgrow. You tried to turn them home. They were only passing through temporarily. It hurts, yes, deeply, but now you finally understand this. Presence doesn't always mean lasting permanence. Reason 3, they found someone who feels like more. You were enough, solid and steady. But someone else made them feel more. More seen, more desired, more alive again. It wasn't about replacing your presence. It was about chasing emotional intensity fast. Something new, something thrilling, something dangerous. That new person didn't earn anything. They just sparked something reckless and loud. And sometimes, sparks outshine old fires, even if those flames don't last. You gave stability. They gave chaos. You gave consistency. They gave curiosity's thrill. And here's the brutal, honest truth. Most people don't crave peace they feel. They want to feel something strong, even if that feeling is fleeting, even if it's messy and reckless. They're not cruel, just emotionally lost, drunk on excitement, high on escape, running from the emptiness inside themselves. They thought someone new meant healing. They believed distraction was the answer, so they disappeared, chasing the high. Not realizing highs always crash hard. And when that crash finally comes, They'll remember you, your calm presence. But by then it's too late because your silence became your strength. Reason 4. You became too available. You were always there. Too much. Too available, too responsive, too eager. They never had to truly wonder. Never had to chase your energy. Never had to earn your presence. Mystery faded. Polarity cracked. Desire vanished. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you made it easy. People don't value what's freely given. They value what demands some effort. You thought constant presence meant deep love. But being ever present kills attraction quietly. It removes the space tension needs. They stopped chasing because you stopped pulling. They stopped appreciating because you surrendered mystery. And they never had to earn. You gave no reason to miss. No space to long for presence. No distance to spark curiosity again. You became their background emotional noise. Comfortable, predictable, familiar, and dull. But desire lives in what's rare. In space, in silence, in contrast. You gave everything far too soon. They gave nothing and took everything gladly. Now you're empty, drained, and disappointed. And they walk free, without weight. Reason 5. You made them the mission they were meant to join your path. Not become the center of it. But you dropped your daily structure. You abandoned your mission and grind. You let go of your edge. They became your focus, your obsession. Your purpose faded into their presence. Every text, you jumped without hesitation. Every call, you picked up instantly. Every mood, you adjusted yourself constantly. And in doing that, you disappeared. You lost the version of you. They didn't love a perfect reflection. They loved your fire and focus. A mountain firm still, unmoved. A man with depth and direction. A woman with purpose and presence. Someone chasing something beyond connection alone. But when did your life begin orbiting? They felt the pull begin fading because your gravity had collapsed inward. You stopped leading and started checking first. Stopped deciding and started deferring to them. And when you vanished into their frame, they lost what made you magnetic. They didn't walk away from love. They walked away from your sacrifice. The version of you that shrank just to keep them feeling big. Reason 6. They're emotionally immature. They don't know how to communicate, so they vanish instead of speaking the truth. They don't understand emotional confrontation at all, so they ghost to feel control. Not because they hate your presence, but because silence feels easier than honesty. They were never taught emotional expression, never trained to handle discomfort head-on. So instead of a mature conversation, you were absent, you got confusion, you got quiet instead of clarity. Cold space instead of real resolution. Now you're replaying the final message again, trying to decode where it changed, but there's truly nothing to decode here. Just someone too fragile to face you. Someone who thinks avoidance means peace inside someone who runs instead of resolving. They don't realize their silence wounds deeper, that disappearing hurts more than truth ever could. They left not because you're wrong, they left because they were weak. Don't chase closure from their broken silence. Don't seek answers in their absence. You can't heal chasing someone hiding, especially someone hiding from themselves entirely. Reason 7. You exposed too much, too soon. You thought being vulnerable built closeness. You thought openness meant deep intimacy shared. But some people don't want depth. They want excitement, thrill, surface connection. And when you gave them everything, you left behind mystery and tension. They didn't feel magnetism. They drowned. They felt saturation, not emotional suspense. They knew your dreams, your fears too. Your schedule, your thoughts, your rituals. And while you thought it was bonding, they felt pressure intensity. Emotional overload because they didn't earn that access. They didn't work for your energy. They didn't fight for your truth. You poured a gallon of feeling into a shot glass far too soon. And naturally, it all overflowed messily. You weren't wrong, to be honest. But you gave without measured intention, you gave intimacy before earning loyalty. And now, you're left with silence, sitting in confusion, wondering what happened. You didn't love too much. No, you just loved far too fast. Reason 8, you ignored the red flags. You saw the signs, everyone. Don't lie to yourself, you know. The flakiness showed up in patterns. The mood swings came without warning. The emotional shutdowns happened too often. You felt the shift deep inside. In your gut, clarity tried speaking, but you kept convincing yourself otherwise. You told yourself they would change. You blamed timing, blamed your energy. You blamed the past and history. But you never blamed your denial, never blamed your fear of leaving, never blamed your silence, your hesitation. You should have walked when intuition screamed, but instead you waited, hoping harder. You thought love could fix misalignment, that patience could erase their disrespect. But love isn't meant to confuse. It's not meant to keep guessing. You stayed for what could be. You stayed chasing potential, not reality. And now you're stuck in silence. Not because they vanished so suddenly, but because you ignored every red flag. You justified them, covered them, defended. Now you're left cleaning the wreckage you could have avoided walking sooner. They didn't just stop talking abruptly. You ignored every whisper that warned. Reason 9, you made them feel trapped. Love is not meant as control, but even pure intentions build cages. You asked where they had gone. You asked who they were with. You asked why they didn't reply. At first, it all felt caring. Then it slowly turned into chains. They didn't feel freedom, just pressure. They felt watched, not truly seen. They felt smothered, not emotionally safe. You weren't trying to control anything. You were trying to feel secure inside. But they were searching for partnership, not a parent or permission giver, not a warden or parole officer. Your fear disguised itself as love. But fear never nurtures. It interrogates. So they shut down quietly, carefully. They pulled away little by little. They stopped sharing pieces of themselves. Until one day, full silence came. No message, no goodbye, just nothing. Because silence felt easier than explaining. It felt safer than being questioned. Safer than constantly proving their feelings. Safer than defending every little distance. You didn't lose them to betrayal. You lost them to emotional exhaustion quietly. Reason 10, their role in your life was temporary. And you tried to make it permanent. Not everyone is meant to stay. Some people arrive only as bridges, as lessons, as mirrors, as messengers. They come to shake your soul, to teach what you kept ignoring. But you tried to hold on, tried to make something permanent, eternal. And they could feel your grip. They felt the pressure, the expectation rising. They were meant to wake you. But you tried to make them peace. You tried turning chaos into home. Tried making a chapter forever. When they felt you clinging tighter, they slipped first slowly, then suddenly. You weren't wrong for loving hard. You were just wrong about timing. They came for a needed season. You begged them to write the story. But when someone's role is complete, they leave. Without speeches, without warning. Not every ending comes with words. Sometimes silence is the closing chapter. That silence isn't betrayal or punishment. It's the expiration of soul contracts. Let it go. Let it expire. Turn the page. Begin something truer. When someone stops speaking to you, don't chase noise. Study the silence. Their absence teaches what words never could. It reveals what presence used to hide. Now you know. Now you rebuild. Not to win them back again, but to become someone unshakably whole. They walked away. That's their choice. But that doesn't mean you're broken. Their silence was only one sentence. It's not the whole damn story. Because the strongest version of you isn't the one who gets chosen. It's the one who chooses himself first. So learn, heal, grow, rise, evolve. And next time someone disappears from life, you won't chase. You won't beg. You'll breathe deep and unshaken. You'll walk forward with silent peace, knowing this time you need nothing. No apology, no message, no closure. Because now, you are the closure. Share this with someone who needs the truth. Subscribe for more messages they won't say, but you need to hear. Your pain is not the end. It's the beginning.